Hey, this will be a fun show for everybody. We're going to protect the quality of your vacation. Dr. David Klein joins me in studio today, the Stages of Life portion of our programming, and we're so glad to have the doctor on today. The Stages of Life is located in Longwood. Get out a pencil and paper or a pen, and Robin will give you all the contact information you need coming up. But when I talk about protecting our vacations, we got our expectations up. We're watching the postcards. We're looking at the pamphlets. We're going online. And then we very, very much in our excitement forget about the fact that oftentimes during our vacations, they're a little bit, let's say they could be ruined by motion sickness. We could get very, very sick. All right. Maybe it's something in the food. We don't know. But how are we going to assure ourselves of the best possible vacation except for the ship breaking down? So, doctor, what are we going to do?
Well, even the ship breaking down kind of freaks me out a little bit. But what do you do? Okay, and how do you prepare yourself either emotionally, physically, and or pharmacologically for your little trip out? Now, here we are. Most of the people listening to the show live here in the Southeast. Most of us in Florida. Not entirely, but this is going to be focused mostly on those of us that live in mosquito country, that live in food poisoning country, and that live in all manners of other critters, great and small. So what do you do if you're going on vacation, let's say to some small little village, okay, in the Caribbean? Okay, well, I generally advise my patients, those that can read and write properly, those that follow instructions, those that have a sense of, well, let's say focus, that they may want to take a small cache of antibiotics with them. Now, if you're going for a week someplace, what could possibly happen? Well, what are you doing? Are you going fishing? Are you going golfing? Or are you just laying out in the sun? Are you going off through the rainforest looking at fancy birds? Each one of these things has its own risk factors, and you have to take certain precautions. Well, what do you do if all you're going to do is go out and lay in the sun? Well, the very first thing that you need to understand is that the first day out, okay, the second day out and the third day out are different. Your skin is going to adapt to the intensity of the sun. You need to get your sunscreen out there. You need to get under an umbrella. You need to wear sunglasses, a hat, and probably even cover over the bathing suit. And anybody stupid enough to be out there at midday deserves to be shot, because even the natives aren't out there between 12 and 2 for a good reason. Kipling had this right, okay, back in the 1840s, 1860s. He wrote it up. He understood how it worked about who's out during the midday sun. What is it, Mad Dogs and Englishmen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if there are any Englishmen listening, they understand all too well about the Mad Dogs.
And I think researching the part of the world you're going to, I remember we had a lot of sun worshipers from the Midwest, and they would even come down to Padre Island, or they'd come down to Texas in the winter, and they would do pretty well as long as they were using a good sunscreen. But I can remember taking a group trip down to Jamaica and having the person at the front desk say, "You may think you're a sun worshiper, but no more than 20 minutes.
20 minutes is
Those people that stayed 2 or 3 hours out there, doctor, 2 of them had to be hospitalized.
Yeah, well, there you go, okay? And it's no joke because, yeah, you make it past the sunburn, okay? But you now set yourself up for a lifelong risk of an increased risk of skin cancer. It is no joke. These burns are really, really bad business. They are vacation ruiners. So be sure that you walk out there with an SPF 30, 40, 50. It doesn't really matter, but bring lots of it because it's expensive once you get to the islands.
Oh.
Okay, so bring it, take it with you. What do you do about, let's say we're going to Mexico as an example. I like going to Mexico. It's one of my favorite places to go to. I always set myself up, okay, with Pepto-Bismol tablets. Now, why Pepto-Bismol tablets? You take them before each meal. You can travel with lots of them. They're cheap. Okay, you get the generic Pepto-Bismol if you are frugal, but you take one before each meal and it protects you from E. coli, from a bunch of other foodborne illnesses, in spite of the fact that you're told not to eat the salad, not to drink the water out of glasses, and if you're going to consume beverages, beer is the local favorite for a reason. Now, you're going to say, well, gee, is it because their sanitation is bad? Not necessarily so, because the Mexicans come here and they get the same traveler's diarrhea because it's called E. coli serotypes. So when we travel to Britain, the same thing will happen. When the Brits come here, they'll get equally sick. The advice remains the same. Use Pepto-Bismol before each meal. Your body will then thereby slowly adapt to the E. coli serotypes, and away you go. You have to be very, very careful when you travel to the Caribbean as well as the Gulf of Mexico. That's Texas, mind you, about shellfish because of something called Vibrio parahemolyticus. So generally when I have people go into Corpus Christi on vacation, New Orleans on vacation, as well as Cozumel, so on and so forth, around into the Yucatan, okay, that they should travel with a little bit of Septra. Okay, why? Because it's very, very helpful not only for the E. coli, but it may be helpful for the Vibrio parahemolyticus. So what I'll do is I'll give people, they're my patients, these little packs, these little travel packs when asked. Okay, they get the bottles in the office, but they're asked to return them when they come home because I don't want them treating their own infections when they get here. These are for emergency use only. What do you do if you're going fishing? Okay, you got nailed by a fish hook. You're out in the Gulf of Mexico. It could be a problem. It could cost you your hand. The infections may spread in as little as 12 hours. So I have people carry doxycycline with them. Same kind of a deal. Or Cipro, same kind of a deal. These are basics. These are things that I do personally. A lot of doctors don't feel comfortable doing it. I was a flight surgeon with the Air Force. We used to have to trust our pilots. We had to trust our air crew to do the right things. But in the event of an emergency, the instructions were very, very clear. Take one of these tablets or capsules or whatever twice daily for skin infection, for upper respiratory tract infection, for urinary tract infection. We had to treat lots and lots of pilots for, let's say community-acquired urinary tract infections. These do happen when you're on vacation, too. So what else do you do? As I used to tell my Air Force pilots and my Navy pilots, wrap that rascal when you're on shore.
Now, is there anything that you can do to really protect yourself besides washing your hands in public transportation, airplanes, ships, cruise ships? I know that on Carnival, they tried to do a really cool thing by putting those wipes at every single door you come to. It doesn't matter going in, going out. There were wipes at every door.
Except the bathrooms.
That was after their little contamination problem a year ago.
Yeah, they don't put them in the bathrooms, though, which is where
It's
the
not
real
good.
joke is.
They need to be everywhere.
Of course they do. Well, when just for grins, if people are at risk of being looked at as a perv, kind of just take your time in the bathroom and watch the people do their business and leave. And count the number of people. Run your own percentages that don't wash their hands before they hit that door handle.
Oh, God.
Okay? It's about 2/3 to 3/4, and not just guys. But, it's women, children, everybody. They don't seem to understand or care that whatever they are doing, whatever their biology happens to be, they're sharing it with you. So the trick is to use those wipes. Hold them in your hand as you open the door. I personally like to use my elbow or my knee to open these doors. I don't like touching the doorknobs or the handles, and that's the way these things go. Now, wash your hands before you go to the bathroom as well. Okay, before and after. Why? Because it's really easy to give yourself something as you get into the bathroom. Yes, you can acquire infections there as well.
Okay, people on an airplane, they complain about earaches and ears popping. What can they do?
Gotta love it. Okay, so let's say you have a cold. Now, again, in the military, we used to ground people. You would not be able to fly until it cleared. Here, publicly, it doesn't really seem to make any difference. If you were on your vacation, it's your business. So what I typically have people do is to get N-acetylcysteine, NAC, guaifenesin, and peppermint oil. And what do? You liquefy the sinus drainage so that it blows out. For the ears, you take something called Afrin nose spray, and you spray it, take a puff or two before you ascend. You keep it handy in case you need to on the descent, because it's actually as you come down from an airplane that you'll end up with ear blockage. Going up is usually very, very easy. It's coming down that can be testy. What else do you do or can you do? Let's say that you're off in the middle of nowhere, okay, and you end up with an ear infection. Having a little bit of mineral oil is a good thing to have.
And it works.
It works marvelously. You can find it locally because mineral oil is used as a poor man's laxative, but you take a drop or two, put it in your ear, and guess what? The swimmer's ear gets better. The barotitis from scuba diving or snorkeling will get better. These are ways that you can get yourself back into action before you come home, because God help you. Okay, if you find yourself into some of these local hospitals, you'll understand, what it's like to be on death watch.
We're officially going into stages of life overtime with this one, and that is the question: motion sickness seems to happen with kids a lot. And as they get older, somehow they grow out of it, it seems like. But other people do suffer from motion sickness.
Well, the first thing you need to do with your children or your grandchildren is to teach them that if they have to puke, to turn their head in the opposite direction to get a different traveler. Okay? But if you want to prevent it, these little scopolamine patches are marvelous. So a scope patch is something that you get before you go. They're very, very inexpensive. They are prescription items. They last several days. You stick it behind your ear, motion sickness, away it goes. On shipboard, okay, they give these things away.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, but they don't on airlines. They don't do them at the resorts. So you get them before you go. Your doctor should know how to prescribe them. They almost all do, and you get them before you go. They have a reasonable shelf life, so if you don't need them this trip, they may be good for the next one.
All right, how about this? Now I see some stores are selling this little bracelet thing that's supposed to help you. That, I'm not sure how it works or how they think it works, but I'd rather have the patch behind the ear.
The patch behind the ear works. The little straps on your wrist, gee, guess what? Okay, you can snap yourself, you can pop yourself with a rubber band. It's a little bit cheaper, and it's just about as effective. But a scopolamine patch is the way to fly. These things are marvelous. I write these prescriptions all the time. You know, it's $5 or $10, $15 at Publix. The stuff is marvelous.
And remember, in a lot of destinations you're going to, do your research on the internet, because there's many places you can go in this world, and by golly, right here in Florida, where you want to stay right on the resort grounds. You don't want to go outside for any way, shape, or form. And if you do, don't be flashing any cash. All right, what can we stock up on at the Stages of Life before we go on vacation?
Well, come on in to our health store. We're located at 1917 Booth Circle. That's right off of I-4 and 434. Our phone number is 407-679-3337, and our office hours and health store hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. Check us out on the web at stagesof.net or Facebook, Stages of Life Medical Institute.